everyone! Welcome to another WWE pay-per-view review from the CC Network. I'm Fred, your ever-reliable host as always, and today we'll be looking back at SmackDown's Backlash event that emanated last night from the Allstate Arena in Chicago, Illinois. Now, Backlash's build-up was pretty lackluster, as for even me, SmackDown's shows, much like Raw's, have turned out to be absolute stinkers that aren't worth watching from 1 to 3 in the morning in this case. However, could this pay-per-view remind me of how good the blue brand could be? We'll have to find out, and that's what this review is for. We started off with Ty Dillinger defeating Aiden English on the kickoff show, and as we're in Chicago, you should expect the crowd reaction to do quite well in the ratings for this event as a whole. And we kicked things off with the pay-per-view poster boy. Try saying that fast 4 or 5 times without getting your tongue twisted, as Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Dolph Ziggler off of Kinshasa in 15 minutes and 14 seconds. Now, many of you, I bet, were quite surprised that this blockbuster match, the debut of Shinsuke Nakamura, would open the show. Considering that Jinder Mahal main evented, a lot of you freaked out internally, I bet. The thing is though, with the NBA playoff game coming later on in this pay-per-view, and with it being to blame for SmackDown's dismal ratings last week, inevitably I can understand why WWE wanted to do this, to get the crowd going from the minute this pay-per-view started with a physical and intense match between two of WWE's best. And you would expect it would be my match of the night, because look at the two involved, you know it's going to be something decent. While the psychology was simple, having these two outwit, outwrestle and outstrike each other with the do-or-die in-ring tactics all aplenty, it was Ziggler's heel posturing that made up for a lack of body selling to give this match some meat, while it ebbed and flowed with momentum shifts and quick pacing to allow this athletic contest of will between two similar athletes to go right to the wire. Many matches, and even some on this card, wouldn't have coped with momentum and offense flipping so easily, but to keep that intense pace between two equals in the field, I understood why it needed to be done, because it inevitably allowed Ziggler to show just how good he is. He hasn't looked very good in recent months and or years, so to put him up against Shinsuke Nakamura and make it look like he has a fighting chance in a match that was very easily predictable was the right call to make. And it really helped, because the crowd actually thought Ziggler had it won a few times. Even I did. Which is a good thing, because you don't want Nakamura to feel like he can just waltz through the field and reach the WWE Championship. Who the hell do you think he is, Jinder Mahal? Oh, good God, that joke's gonna bite me in the ass. Anyway, the match went on for quite some time, kept its interest, and had a loud, rambunctious crowd on their feet for pretty much its entirety. But even they doubted the endurance of Shinsuke and lost enthusiasm at the sheer amount of near falls that stretched the match out a little too long and neutered the psychology as a result, considering we were in a very demanding match. Because even I, a simple human being, would probably die from one of those kicks to the back of the head. I don't care if you're some hardened, amazing Japanese fighting machine, you do not get up from being kicked right in the back of the cranium. And seriously, it made my believability and suspension of disbelief for the ending go right out the window alongside the lack of body selling throughout that really didn't work too well. They did it on occasion, just not for long, because they were countering way too much, and yeah, you can see why it didn't rate the highest on the psychology front, but that shouldn't matter. It was still a thoroughly entertaining bout with a lot of athleticism and hard-hitting strikes as these two countered each other into my good books, putting on a very good standard that was reflected pretty much throughout the entire show, delivering a strong and stable bout that we expected to be this quality. It could have been better with some more refinement and not trying to rush itself on occasion despite a 15-minute runtime, but inevitably I feel this was a decent match to kick off the show. In fact, decent isn't even the word for it. It was a really nice match. It was a 3.25 star match, to be exact, missing some key points on the psychology and move variety to take it really any higher from where I've already stated. But these guys gave all they could to start this event off well, and I honestly can't fault them for that. Next up, we have the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, with the Usos retaining their titles, defeating Breezango after an Uso, because they haven't got bloody corresponding face paint, I can't tell which one's which anymore, hit Fandango off the top rope with a super kick after 9 minutes and 18 seconds of action. Now, while I understand the WWE Championship match's finish, the shocker of all shockers that sent the wrestling world into a tailspin was still to come on this show. What shocked me, even more so probably, was just how entertaining this match was. And I understand some of you are thinking, you enjoyed this match? What are you, 7? The fact is, Wrestling comedy is very, very fickle. Sometimes it manages to work, and sometimes it doesn't. In fact, that's actually most comedy, not just wrestling. And the fact is, when you combine them together with good, fluid in-ring action, it actually turned out to be a very thoroughly watchable contest. And I am very happy about that. As far as comedy in wrestling goes, it's fairly cut and dry, as it has to be funny as hell to ensure it keeps my attention. And I wasn't expecting to enjoy this match as much as I did, but Breezango, they've reinvented themselves as an absolutely glorious team, making their Fashion Files gimmick transcend pre-film promos into reality, and they didn't miss a beat doing it. The reconnaissance work, first as the janitor and then the ground mar of all things, had me in absolute stitches, and they got the crowd into it too. You'd think, oh, this is puerile, infantile, dog shit. They're never going to do this. Hey, it's Chicago. It may not be Canada, it may not be Bizarro World, but they will get behind something if they like it. And they appreciate the quality of what Fandango and Tyler Breeze are bringing to this. And they loved it. I mean, to be honest, it wasn't as amazing as seeing that dress throw onto JBL's head, which was the moment of the night prior to the main event result, and it got a massive pop along with pretty much everything in this thing. Pretty much, I would say. And the match in ring-wise wasn't so bad either. And it was ridiculous. Fast-paced, athletic, good momentum shifts, as it really could have been a squash. The Usos could have flattened these guys, but they gave it to them. They got inside their heads and made those two guys, those big Usos, think about what they could do to destroy them. And it was really nice to see. It may have only been the smallest amount of psychology in the world, but it was enjoyable. And I have to say, I can't believe I enjoyed this as much as I did. It was really fun. Considering its funny opening with the mop and then the dress thing, it then descended into a really nice attacking tag team match with near falls out the arse, to the point where we couldn't tell who was going to win. It was ridiculous. To think, most SmackDown tag team matches in recent times on pay-per-view have been pretty dire. This was the injection in the arm I needed to think, you know what? The SmackDown tag division has some life left in it. And I hope it can, as the Usos were being douchebags, brutalizing them. Breezango were in the crowd's hands the entire time, and they were booing the Usos for everything. And they went to victory after a back-and-forth match that was really fun. And I understand it hasn't gotten the highest ratings overall, which means it's not going to get much. But at the same time, for what it did, and for the entertainment it gave, this was a million times better than I expected it to be. It could have been the match of the night if a little bit more psychology was done, a bit more body selling, as I keep reminding myself. And importantly, most assuredly of all, I felt it could have gone on a little longer and not had to rush itself. But apart from that, this was a near 3-star match. It was 2 3/4 stars, to be exact. Honestly, the fact that this could have been a 3-star bout is ridiculous. This match was fun. It wasn't the best match I've ever seen, but not many are this fun to sit and just enjoy. Although I will say, I don't know why the referee didn't DQ Breezango for using the mop at the beginning, because that should have happened, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. I've enjoyed this pay-per-view thus far. Let's keep the momentum going. Next up, we have Sami Zayn, somehow against all that is holy, defeating Baron Corbin off a Helluva Kick, which literally came out of nowhere in 14 minutes and 15 seconds. Now, while I appreciated the psychology immensely, you can see by the rating there, with Zayn selling his back throughout, which again makes my enjoyment rating go up, which is even better. I loved in-ring psychology, and this match was full of it. It told a lovely story. However, the crowd didn't seem to appreciate it because Zayn won. They were shocked that he did, but honestly, after all that punishment, after all of that work that Corbin did on his back, there is no way in all that is holy that Zayn should have won. It was unrealistic. And even I thought, okay, I like the psychology of this, but this result is a absolute killjoy. Because it came out of thin air. He had his back worked over for most of the contest, and he still came back and won. What kind of bullcrap is this? Anyway, considering the match had momentum shifting so much that it looked equal, you can understand why I'm a little bit irritated by this. It didn't work the way that Ziggler and Nakamura did, because they are equals in physical and athletic abilities, in style and execution, making such a coin-flipping momentum shifting match feel good. This, however, doing the exact same thing was irritating when you have a size and speed difference of power versus pace, and I understand that sometimes can work, but Sami Zayn can take down guys twice his size. We've seen that done before. So him being an even match to Corbin, considering how much damage he did, just was not good, at least for me. And overall, the match went on a little too long and stunted a decent crowd, which is not good. That being said, though, the pace of the match going stop-start and emphasising Corbin as a smart, decisive and destructive monster was lovely to see as Zayn fought against the odds, and obviously a messed up back to showcase his fortitude like I've already said. The story of the match and the working by both participants made this much more enjoyable than I honestly thought it would be, especially with Corbin utilising a bear hug to wear down his opponent. Where the hell have we seen that in recent times? However, despite what good the story did in making this match exciting for me, the other categories, while achieving decent scores, didn't allow it to flourish like the others that have come before it. It's a 2.5-star match, which is not shabby at all, considering I thought that this match was gonna suck. Despite being a decent-ish fan of Corbin and a big fan of Sami Zayn, I thought this match wasn't going to be that good. It exceeded my expectations somewhat. I've got to give props to both men there, but let's hope their next match has a little more violence and believability about it, because I'm pretty sure these two aren't done yet, and I can't wait to see more. I'm just hoping we don't get a result that makes me as infuriated as I was last night. Next up, we had the 6-women tag team matchup, where the Welcoming Committee defeated Naomi, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair, with Natalya making Becky tap to the sharpshooter in 10 minutes and 5 seconds. Now, against all logic, this wasn't the worst match of the night, because it damn well deserved to be. What an uninspiring and tepid contest this was. Outside of the heel win and its solid pace and a sometimes loud yet numb crowd reaction, this match fell off its own horse without really getting steady. The match had no life, no substance, and it felt like a throwaway to set up multiple women's matches down the line rather than create anything exciting. Now, I'm happy the Welcoming Committee won, as it ensures this storyline has splintering effects for all the women involved, but as an athletic contest, this was as pedestrian and substandard as you'd expect, compounded by some very sloppy moves, movements and counters, just making me feel even more worse about it, if such a thing can ever be done. It only barely avoided the bottom of the barrel and scored a 1/4 of a star. Now, I hope the Money in the Bank pay-per-view actually gives us a women's title match, because nothing bores me to death like inconsequential 6-person tag matches, which we already see enough of on weekly television. Seriously, can I think of anything more creative? And if you aren't going to inject one of those matches with life on pay-per-view, just keep it off the product. I don't need to speak about this match anymore. Let's move on to the next one. Following that dumpster fire, we have the highly anticipated WWE United States Championship match, with Kevin Owens defeating AJ Styles via countout after the challenger couldn't untangle himself from the announce table after 21 minutes and 10 seconds of grueling action. Now, while I'm in no doubt this match was a good one, I didn't feel, for the first half of the contest, it was anything special. And honestly, a lot of people are probably in agreement there, especially when I looked at Lexman's Twitter following this pay-per-view, because even he stated following that match, it just wasn't the match of the year candidate that he or many expected. And I'm in the same boat, because the first half of this match, you could even dare say the 3/4 of it, mostly, was just really awkward. It was slow burning that took its time to really want to go anywhere. It felt indecisive with its pace and had awkward sequencing and momentum shifting that was so off-piste it was ridiculous, as both men saw a hot crowd die out before their eyes. And I felt really disappointed, but thankfully they rebounded in such an amazing way that the negative aspect of the pace and tone of it was completely revived and was made to be very entertaining indeed. And you can say that was a good thing because the psychology that drove the match is what kept my interest against all logic, as Owens worked over that leg, which he injured last week on SmackDown, with every single move he could do, including a cannonball to it, because he's amazing at what he does. Styles, however, he didn't sell it enough for me, especially when it came to counters and reversals, and inevitably that killed some of my suspension of disbelief again. However, he did intentionally botch the phenomenal forearm because his leg gave out. That is superb, I can't deny it. But then you have to realise why the second half of the match was so amazing. If you've seen it, you know why. If not, it's because they went from an awkward ability of a test of strength between two guys who are very skilled in the ring to a match where both of these guys knocked 6 bells out of each other with hard-hitting moves like Fisherman Busters off the top, a suplex on the apron which looked like it really hurt, and of course a sunset flip powerbomb without busting your leg in half. It was intense, and it really got the crowd back on their side, and it got me back on the side as well, which is all well and good. And considering up until that point there hadn't been too much, I can't really say and I asked for much more, and I loved the finish. I loved the finish because it made Styles look strong without him being pinned, and it gave them a reason for a rematch. And that is good. That, ladies and gentlemen, is good. This overall, even with its issues, was a match that delivered on the minimum that we expected from these two, who are the best in the company, as they've stated, in providing a thrilling and intense contest, but I wish it didn't take that long. 10, 15 minutes to even reach that? It felt like a wasted opportunity for that time period to build that match up. Sure, they were doing it to work Styles' leg, but when doing so, without much aplomb, it didn't feel like it was worth it. However, it was definitely worth it by the end of the contest, and I can't go wrong with that. But like I've just said, a stop-start momentum in the beginning cost this match the spoils it deserved, despite it being a good contest overall. I'm hoping their next match is going to be better than the 3-star contest I'm giving here. I still enjoyed this match, but it could have been match of the night if not for the issues I've highlighted. I am really happy they delivered a 3-star contest because it shows that these two have good chemistry and have potential for something better. Because yeah, I hope their Money in the Bank match or their SummerSlam match or their Battleground match turn out to be really, really good. Because yeah, the potential for what these two could do was laid out in front of us. All they need to do is up the stakes, make it bigger, and we could be looking at a 4-star plus match here. It's just missing a few little pieces, and it'll be ready. Also, before we go on to the next match, how awesome was it that Kevin Owens walked around his own head on the Floortron? Love that attention to detail on his character. Following that, we have the semi-main event with Luke Harper defeating Eric Rowan off a discus forearm in 9 minutes exactly. Now, considering these two big men who are very athletic for what their size highlights them to be, this should have been something decent. When you look at these two, the history they have, the moves they can pull out, if this had the right build, the right story, and the right match type, we could have had a show stealer. But the minute this was put on the card, I thought to myself, they're going to stick it between 2 big matches before the main event, and they are going to make this look so inconsequential it'll hurt them massively. And I couldn't have been more right. To say I hated this unimaginative and flat match would be an understatement. The crowd were dead, it had no basis of psychology outside of Rowan's aggression and dominance, which made me have something to talk about, but a steady and slow pace just elongated this to a 9 minutes felt like 20. Nothing actually felt like it was happening. The match was just filler. And to have a match between these two members of the Wyatt family, who have so much history together as a team, that they couldn't work any of that in, it was just so uninspired. To have a boring, unimaginative, dull, and tepid singles contest like this was just not what this pay-per-view needed after I had just gotten my enthusiasm for the show back after Owens and Styles. This is not what I needed. It's a 0 any day of the week, and honestly, these two deserve a lot better than this, and I'm hoping they pick up steam and do something, because Luke Harper and Eric Rowan are two guys who really need to be in a better program. Either put them back as a team or put them against people who they can work off and do something. And to many people who thought that Luke Harper would be going for the WWE Championship after WrestleMania or during WrestleMania, much like me, we're all just going to be a little more saddened that it seems WWE have dropped the ball with a surefire future main eventer at the helm, which is just sad. And we go from a sad thought of mine to one thought that I know a lot of you are feeling the exact same way about, as we reach the WWE Championship main event where, I cannot believe I'm about to say this, Jinder Mahal won the freaking belt, defeating Randy Orton off that Cobra Clutch Slam, I cannot remember the name of it now, in 15 minutes and 45 seconds. Now, my head cannot process this result still. The thing is, I predicted this. A few days ago, I put my predictions out on Twitter and I said, yes, I know I'm mad to predict Jinder Mahal. Because I thought to myself, the rumours are buzzing, there's a possibility, but no, he isn't. I just thought you need another heel win on the night, why not pick Jinder? I'm not going to hinder him. And the fact is, I didn't think they were actually going to go through with it. I thought there was no way they're going to put a perennial jobber on top of SmackDown, let alone the company. And, yeah, they actually did it. Now I know what it feels like being a Leave voter in the EU referendum, because a lot of people put the Leave vote in thinking it wasn't going to happen, and lo and behold, it has. And this is an exact parallel to that. It's ridiculous. I know what that feels like now, and it feels weird. And to roll off some stats for you guys, he is the 50th unique individual WWE champion, a marker that I thought someone bigger would win, but lo and behold, it's Jinder Mahal. He's only the second person from Calgary to win it after Bret Hart, and knowing that he's a Canadian Indian, if you did not know that. And the fact is, shockingly, he's a black WWE champion. I know WWE haven't broken their African-American hoodoo that still overshadows the belt, but at least he fits it more than a half Samoan Rock does. I'm going to give some credit. We have a black WWE champion. I want to applaud this, but I don't think there's a reason to, because it's long overdue. Some love this result, and some hate it. And I'm just stunned that WWE pulled the trigger. And I'm happy, in a way, because they're doing something different. Because after a month or so of indifference and a lack of desire to really watch WWE's weekly product because it's been that bad across both brands, I now have to tune in to SmackDown on Tuesday just to see the nuclear apocalypse that is going to come from that crowd who were stunned and baffled on the night. They're going to be booing the ever-loving crap out of this guy, and it's going to be superb. As the most shocking WWE champion since JBL, who got to this point in a similar way, except with more bullshit, noting Kurt Angle in the Texas Bull Rope match, he's going to take center stage, and it's going to be fun. I want to see where this goes from here. And I would have liked if Jinder had won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal instead of Mojo Rawley, just to ensure that this transition from jobber to main eventer wasn't as jarring, but what are you going to do? We've got what we've got, and I can't do anything about that now. The shocking result aside, the match was way better than I expected it to be, and it's easily Mahal's best match for the company, which also happened to be his crowning achievement with it, go figure. The psychology of Orton's aggression and desire to rough Mahal up straight from the bell, even before the bell rang, for all he'd done to him, was lovely, as well as Mahal going for the previously surgically repaired shoulders, that long injury history, to stop the RKO and to stop Orton's attack, was inspired. And while it was difficult for this match to retain a stable pace that made it feel too stop-start for my liking, given the length of it, it added tension and showed off Mahal's decent mat skills, while making Orton look like a frenzied badass, which worked even more once Mahal hurt his shoulder and the Bollywood boys, or the Singh brothers, got decimated. Those table spots on the WDDT were sick, not to mention Orton sold the shoulder superbly and made Mahal look as legit as you could be. It was brilliant, and which made the match look less surprising. Despite the insane crowd reaction, of course. Because seriously, Mahal looked good in this. And I've got to give credit for Randy Orton for doing that. And speaking of the crowd, while muted at times, were shockingly into it. They were cheering for Jinder, saying, "Let's go Jinder, Jinder sucks," and they were dueling everything. It was ridiculous. It's like the crowd were thinking, you know what, we want it for a laugh, but we're still going to be annoyed when it happens because we're Chicago and we're a smart crowd. But they actually enjoyed the match. I can't deny that was a good thing. Indeed so. Good God almighty, because Jinder looked credible in this. I can't believe it. I don't honestly think they could have believed how good this match would have been either, because they were invested, and I loved it. This was a bout that proved that the end product, if executed right, can be better than the sum of its TV parts, as it showed that two wrestlers put on a match befitting of its bewildering story and then added a climax to it, which made it both interesting and scary at the same time. I'm uncertain what this will mean ahead for Jinder, but this match certainly played its part in ending this event with a well-made bout, and it's a bout that I thoroughly enjoyed in spite of its obvious flaws in pacing itself, and in all fairness, on my end of things, the move variety could have used a little more spice as far as I'm concerned, but apart from that, it was a 3-star bout. And honestly, to think Jinder Mahal would get a 3-star bout from me, I never thought that day would ever come. But the fact he also won the big one makes it even more crazy. But these two had good chemistry and kept you guessing throughout, leading to a solid and surprising match that we're going to be talking about for years. Not just because of the result, but showing that, hey, Jinder came to the party and he made himself look pretty damn decent. And to tie everything together and finish this entire crazy situation off, I had to do what I believe many were doing following this event's conclusion because we're uncultured swines, and that was to find out what Maharaja means. Because the fact is, we're going to be hearing the term modern day Maharaja in every single promo that Jinder does, every single thing that JBL does around him, every video package, WWE article, YouTube video, you name it. That is going to be there, calling him the modern day Maharaja until the end of the frickin' times. And I had to figure it out because it'll make things a little easier. And it means great ruler or king in Sanskrit. Go figure, because a Canadian Indian who achieved jack shit up until now is the king. The WWE champion. It still boggles my mind that Jinder Mahal and WWE Champion are in the same sentence. Bring on Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, because I am going to be very intrigued to see where this goes from here. A lot of you aren't, a lot of you think this is one of the worst things ever, but hey, lighten up, it's something different, we can all be somewhat happy at that. And with that said and done, it's time for me to sum up my final thoughts on this pay-per-view. Now, going into this event, like many, I felt that it was decent on paper, but looked underwhelming as all hell due to the lackluster TV product that we've had over the last month on both brands, let alone one. However, against all the odds, the SmackDown brand have showcased themselves with some great booking, playing to the Chicago crowd, and giving enough in-ring action to leave me pleasantly surprised and satisfied indeed, especially when you look at what ratings I've given throughout this entire night. To have 5 of the 7 matches go above 2 stars, let alone 3 of them above 3, means that this show exceeded all expectations by a long shot outside of the women's match and the Harper Rowan one. This event was much like Raw's predecessor, Payback, being remarkably consistent, only more so with a better quality crowd to help things really feel big despite its underwhelming preamble. And despite me only getting 2 predictions wrong all night, this event didn't feel like a predictable slog with a lot of entertaining and well-thought matches up and down the card, only let down by 2 stinkers that ruined the flow of the evening. It kept me on my toes, was entertaining all the way, and even in its worst moments made me remember how good a pay-per-view can be. If it doesn't really look the best going in, it can really surprise you. If there was ever a pay-per-view that I could say defied any expectations, it would be this one. One that was let down by the sum of its parts, but not delivering on that front. But the rest of this card, outside of 2 matches, rallied together to create an above-average show that showed really why SmackDown, despite a depleted roster, has a very bright future. It may not have been an incredible show by any means, but it was a fun and surprisingly good one that did more than anyone could have ever thought. WWE Backlash 2017, ladies and gentlemen, as a result, gets a score, a very good score, of 6.5 out of 10. It's not Mania or Rumble good, but I'll give SmackDown credit for usurping Raw's comprehensive pay-per-view of consistency this time. I wasn't expecting it, and lo and behold, they did. So, let's hope Extreme Rules can match up to it, because 2017's pay-per-view year is now currently on a roll. And I hope they can continue it, because it may not be barnstormers every single week or every couple of weeks these shows happen, but the quality of show that I'm seeing, if it remains like this, I'm going to be very, very happy with what I see down the road. WWE, keep it up, and you know I will remain invested. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Backlash 2017 review is done, and I understand a lot of you are not going to feel the same way as I did, because I quite enjoyed myself. It was a pretty decent night of wrestling, very good night of wrestling, in fact. I know some of you are going to be very glum, very angry, and very annoyed, but remember, we don't want to turn Jinder into another Roman Reigns here, okay? One match result does not make the whole night bad. Seriously, if you review with that mentality, you're not really reviewing at all, you're just being an arsehole. That's just my opinion anyway. Speaking of all of your opinions, though, what did you all think? Do you think that I was right in giving this a decent rating? Do you still think it was bad regardless? Do you think, like that guy that one time, that I am very easily pleased? Because I keep reminding myself that that guy may have been proven right by this pay-per-view, and if he thinks he is, come and say some more, because I'd love to see what you think about this one. Put your opinions down in the comment section, I'd be glad to read them, and of course there are more wrestling videos coming up in the next few weeks here on the CC Network. We of course have the Extreme Rules review at the opening part of June, and of course we have the Friday flashback of WrestleMania 19 coming up this Friday. Lo and behold, it should be amazing. It should also be a really long video, like it would be. And if you cannot wait to see those, click the subscribe button down there. It would be much appreciated. But of course, if you're not just a wrestling fan, there's a lot going on here. The Fur Fighters playthrough finished this past weekend. You can check the playlist on the channel. The new episodes of Pwned and stuff, like one episode of Pwned and stuff, is coming up on Wednesday, which is all well and good. And from there, we've got a pretty decent amount of wrestling and Pwned until the end of the month, and then June kicks in, and all should be well. So SmackDown, you've laid your chips down on the table pretty nicely. So Raw, it's now your turn. And speaking of which, Rico, I hope you enjoy Raw tonight, because you're going to be there in the crowd. I hope it's awesome, because Raw and SmackDown on TV have a lot to do to regain my trust. On pay-per-view, though, they're still doing a good job. Let's just hope you enjoy it, and don't find the 3 hours difficult to sit through in person. I have been Freddie Thomas, you've been people listening. This has been a wrestling pay-per-view review of Backlash 2017 for the CC Network. And I will see you all next time.